How's the tour so far?
Tour so far is doing really good. After a bit of a rough start where we had to cancel almost all the Florida shows due to a hurricane and be part of a mass evacuation, it's been really smooth sailing since. So it seems like we got all our bad luck out of the way, and we've just been rolling around. We're like 13 shows in a row now, and still going. Yeah.
Any favorite city?
Favorite show so far was probably in Worcester, Massachusetts.
And this year you toured already both Europe and North America. Are you happy with the previous tours?
Depends on the show. I like some shows better than others, but on the whole, yeah, I'm happy to play music and go around the world doing it. That's why I'm still here, you know.
And what do you like most about touring?
Playing shows. I wouldn't tour if I couldn't play the music we wrote because it's pretty, it's difficult and strenuous, but it's nice just because playing shows, the crowd enjoys it. There's something very basic about that makes you happy, you know?
Absolutely. Let's talk about your latest album, was Vanquished. I was working on this album in terms of songwriting, recording.
This one went really well. We put a lot of work into it. It was a very meticulous process where everything was really detailed. We actually wrote and recorded pretty much the whole album ourselves, then went into the studio and recorded it. And this was great for us because it allowed us to really tighten everything up, and it allowed us to hear the songs back and to live with them for a while. So by the time we're actually in the studio, every little thing about it, every lyric I might change like a one word of or whatever, or every drum fill that Carlos wanted to mess with, all the solos, all the fine tuning. We had a lot of time to sit around and think about it, and it made that part of it much less rushed. So when we were actually in the studio, we already knew how to play the songs, we already knew what the songs were, and it was just a matter of tightening the screws.
And you mentioned the lyrics. Were you inspired by something in particular?
Well, each song's kind of its own little setting, I guess, and own little concept. But the overarching themes of the record are like history, warfare, and sort of the evil lies of old school nationalism and whatnot. And there's a bit of, towards the end, it gets a little more philosophical. One or two songs is just dark fantasy, but most of it's basically the terrifying and horrible stuff I can find in the real world, and it's entirely real, and it's designed to pretty much just stab you in the heart.
And now that you had the chance to play many new songs from this album live, do you have a favorite?
My favorites on the new record are probably Silhouettes and When the Guns Fell Silent, first and last ones. We're playing the entire record right now on this whole tour, so all of it really. I think this record on the whole, is the strongest thing we've ever done, and I don't think there's a single weak moment on it, personally. We put a lot of work into it, and I think it really represents Warbringer's best record and also our most distinct. We're a band that comes from a background of classic thrash metal as the core of our sound, but I think this record in particular, you can't mistake us for any other band.
So you disagree with those who categorize you as thrash metal?
No, I think that's the core of our sound. I think we're a thrash metal band, but I don't think we're the same as other bands who have that label. There's a lot of different influence. My voice is different. Our song structure is different. If you guys ever analyze that stuff, the guitar soloing style is different for how extreme the music is, because we play like Slayer fast or faster, but we have melodic solos, for the most part. So we kind of grab from all types of just heavy thrash, speed, death, black, and sort of create a stew out of that. And I'd call it thrash metal, but it's a really extreme kind of thrash metal.
And considering the current metal scene, the music industry situation, what is the most challenging aspect of being a musician?
Well, it's everything. It's actually probably the worst time in history to be a rock musician since rock music was started. But I'm crazy, so I'm still here. Effectively, if you're in the metal scene and you're a young band, it's just a complete uphill battle. I'll take this time to say one of the biggest problems in the metal scene is that if you look at like the top 10 bands that are mentioned the most in the press or on the big, headlining the most festivals, so on and so forth, it's literally the same bands as that. 9 of those bands would be the same as it was 25, 30 years ago. I'm 30 years old. Right. It's there's very little renewal in the genre, and that's fine and good if every one of these bands is still making classic records, but that's not the case.
Many of these legendary thrash bands came out with new releases lately. Did you like any?
I liked some. I don't think there's any that I would say I loved that made me go like, oh, this is as good or better than the old material. Bands like Warbringer, when we came out, were given this word retro thrash, right. And I think maybe on our first album, that's a fair criticism. I think we evolved very quickly, though. We're 19 as well, so give us a fucking break, world. Then I think honestly, the real retro thrash bands today typically are the old bands trying to remember what the hell it was like when they were young and angry and played fast.
Do you still listen to any of these bands?
Yeah, I listen to all the. If I like a record, I like a record. Even if I saw a live performance that disappointed me, well, the record's good. I don't care about any of that. Good record's a good record. I just think that the metal scene should embrace new good records when they come around because. It's like at the top of the industry, it's an old man. It's sort of like it's an old man's club, and you aren't in it. It doesn't really matter what record you write. It's more about like I almost feel like for Warbringer to reach a greater level of success, it will be a question of like, can we stay around until the old bands die?
Well, let's hope. Yes.
I wonder sometimes. It's and I don't like to think negatively like this because. It's all this music that got me into metal in the first place. And you may notice Warbringer is based on 80s thrash, early 90s black and death metal, 80s heavy metal, and not any of the like modern stuff really, because to me that's a weaker kind of metal, so I would never want to do it. Warbringer is only modern in the sense it's a little faster and more technical and a lot more busy drums, I guess. But that's just, I think that's just the march of rock musicianship as it goes on. And there's a lot of things in the world today that can make it easier to be a major shredder than it was in the past because the techniques are all developed and there's a couple generations of people that can teach them, and the internet's a learning resource for anything that didn't exist in the 80s or whatever. So all that too, plus a general population increase and a greater ease in recording means there's way more people who can play super fast double kick or shred crazy sweeps or whichever instrument that can actually execute extreme metal on it. Whereas I think before, very few people in the world actually could, that wanted to actually could play this music, and that's changed too. So it's like almost cheaper. Like every band has a shredding guitar player now. It's not like, wow, that guitar player's great. It's like if he isn't great, you just never hear the band. So the competition is fierce and there's a lot of it. So our attitude is to pretty much just do a completely honest show. Nothing fake about it, no triggers, none of that. And just to play harder, sweat more, fucking try to level things, play harder than any band you've seen, pretty much. Put more of ourselves into it, fight harder, because, we've been doing it 10 years and we continue to fight for it.
Yeah, and you go on believing in what you do.
Oh, I don't necessarily believe we'll ever succeed, so it's not that. A lot of these people say, if you believe it, you can achieve it. Fuck that. It's, you have to actually do concrete things to achieve it. Things have cause and effect. It's not because you think you're going to be fucking successful that you are. I don't know why people think they're that fucking important.
But at least
that's a bit of my philosophy there. You're not that fucking important. Cause and effect is real. Objective reality will slap you in the face. Thank you.
You can still make the music you like.
That's why I'm still here. I couldn't. I'm not really here because I want to be so much as because I have to. I simply wouldn't be very happy doing anything else. So even though I've chosen a ticket
from my middle class upbringing straight to the lower class, which is not really the way you're supposed to do it. I get to also have a sweeter life than just about anyone I know in many respects. So it's a trade-off for sure, but it is what I'm doing, and I don't know anything else at this point.
What are your plans after this tour?
We're going to be home for a couple weeks. We are playing Ozfest versus Notfest, and then we have another tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we'll see you next time. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you.